Hey there, I'm Mike Dunn with Gaming Trend, and we're here at Origins 2023, and I have standing next to me Mr. Matt Fantastic. And Matt just had a big announcement a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to tell us all about it. It might be something that you might recognize.
Yeah, so we are making the Adventure Time role-playing game, and we are incredibly excited about it. The studio is Forever Stoked Creative, and we're doing basically top to bottom on the creative side of it. So, everything from graphic design to writing to systems to all that stuff. And then we are working with Cryptozoic, who's going to be doing the publishing and like manufacturing and that kind of stuff that we don't.
All the boring stuff.
The stuff that makes money, but the stuff that's not as cool, which I think actually goes hand in hand.
Exactly. All right, so Adventure Time. Let's talk about what you're trying to do with the property and how you're trying to translate it into an RPG form for all the multitudes of fans out there.
Yeah, so the thing is that I have like a whole bunch of different forks of this conversation. Right. First and foremost, we're making a game that is going to be accessible, that's going to be easy to get into, that's going to put that sort of storytelling narrative first. One of the big things that's really great about working with an IP is that I can say, you're this character, let's do a thing. And you immediately understand what the world is. You immediately understand, oh, I know how to be Finn. I know how to be Jake, right? Like, I know how to, this is how Ice King would respond, right? So you have this easy, entry point narratively to jump into it as a player. And then the big thing is that there's no math. So the dice, there's two types of dice for a total of 6 dice completely. So there are 5 dice that have various combinations of the word yes and the word no. So all the way at the lowest end, you have, 5 no's and 1 yes, and then at the high end, you have, 5 yeses and 1 no. You then have 1 die that's a complication die, and that has 2 blank faces. It has 2 faces that say and 2 faces that say but. And so when you're going to do something, you're going to roll the appropriate yes-no die, and then you're going to roll a complication die. And so at its very base version, you get 6 total results, ranging from yes and all the way down to no end. And that manifests in ways, the example I like to give is you're trying to climb a cliff, right? So, great, I got yes and. Awesome, you climb the cliff and you make it easier for the people behind you because you scattered it out. Yes, you just make it to the top. Yes, but, you fail, but, you figured out actually a different route over there that's going to be a little bit better. No, but, you fail, but, whatever. No and, not only do you fail to climb, you knock a bunch of stuff loose and, hit your buddy in the head with a rock, right?
So it's but with 1 T, not 2 T's.
So, you talked about stuff that we can't talk about that's embargoed. One of the things that I'm trying to decide if it's funny enough to fight for making one of them B-U-T-T.
Nice.
But it feels Adventure Timey to be able to do that. So we'll see where that lands. I'm glad that was your first question.
So I haven't seen a huge amount of Adventure Time, but I have seen enough to know that would be a possibility,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, Finn and Jake would 100% add the T.
Yes. And my own personality, that's what I would go for as well. So
one of the things. One of the things with that. That I think is really interesting to me is, so typically in like a role-playing game, you're rolling, you have a narrative challenge that you want to overcome. Then you're going to roll some dice and do some numbers, so you're converting it into this very abstract mathematical system. Mm-hmm. You then have to take that mathematical system and convert it back into a narrative result, right? Whereas this, it's narrative challenge, and then the result is like the natural flow off of what you get on the dice, right? So I'm trying to, punch this guy, and then it's like, I rolled, and it's a 14 in your armor class, and this, and I love D&D. Don't get me wrong, I love D&D. I have an enormous D&D leg sleeve, it's giant illithid. It's pretty chill, but that definitely is a barrier to entry, and it definitely can pull you out of that narrative when you're like checking this and that. Whereas it's like, I want to punch the guy, and it's like, yes, and you also knock him over.
Nice. So it sounds like you're trying to make it more accessible to even younger audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Adventure Time is kind of one of the hallmarks of like all ages sort of like animated content that kids like. I mean, and it's certainly matured over its run. But it's definitely like kid friendly enough, but adults love it too.
Yeah.
So we want to make something that is accessible to anyone that's a fan of the IP, right? Because ultimately, role playing nerds, like, we'll play whatever, right? Like, we can always go backwards, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy to like pull out like the 30 books and do the stuff, and that's great. But
Let's
it's easy
play
for
Traveler this weekend.
I know I died during character creation.
Right.
We're gonna keep that for Adventure Time. Actually, that's gonna be one of the.
Nice.
You're a candy person. You actually just explode.
That actually brings me to another question. Are you looking to have players play like the iconic characters, or will they be able to generate characters within that world that are unique and something that they create?
Yeah, so the answer is both, because this somewhat goes hand in hand with the accessibility aspect, and that is that, like, of course, we're role players. I'm gonna dig into the character creation stuff. I can go crazy. I can do whatever. But at the same time, like, I want to be Finn.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I want to be Marceline. I want to, so as fans of the IP, we want to inhabit, a lot of us want to inhabit those characters, even if it's only once or even if it's part of a thing, and still make our characters and do this and that. So there's still going to be that sort of like robust amount of, it's different because the system's, different, of course, but that kind of character creation, choosing options, skill trees, doing all this kind of stuff and building up in a really, comprehensive, nerdy-ish way, but still accessible but nerdy-ish, right? A lot of it is talent trees. And so it's you have all this complicated choices you can make. You can really go nuts. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, I have this, which means I can get this or this, right? And so it's really intuitive to how you can build your characters out. But yeah, we're going to have, character sheets for like basically everybody from the show. Awesome. And we're going to be doing we're doing a ton of pre-written content. Partly, stuff that's going to be very directly inspired by elements of the show. Like, I think it's impossible for us to not do like a Infinity Train module, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's no way that we're not going to do that. So stuff like that is going to get worked in, and we're going to be telling all of our own, crazy stories and weird stuff. But then, there'll still be that toolkit for people to create their own stories and do whatever. But again, the pre-written stuff goes into the accessibility, right? Because, you or I or somebody that's been playing RPGs for forever, we can sit down and be like, all right, great, let's have some ideas. Boom, 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 boom. Done, and it's easy. It's not easy ever, but but this way, like, I'm new to RPGs. Well, I know who the characters are. I know kind of how the world works. I can read these dice. I know what yes and means, and great. I'm just going to kind of go down this sort of script. So we're actually going to do some ramping up adventures too that you learn the game by playing, and so we're going to introduce some of the mechanics and systems in a narrative fashion.
Excellent. Now, just to kind of dig into the nuts and bolts of it for a minute, are you using like an existing framework for some of the parts of the rule set, and then like customizing it, or is it totally from scratch?
Well, nothing's totally from scratch,
sure,
right?
yeah.
So
everything's derivative.
Yeah, every single thing in it I ripped off from improv or some book I read 20 years ago, or this or that, right? So everything is remixed.
Right.
That's it. So this is a ground up rebuild. Or a system built from the ground up, with specifically this idea of IP stuff in mind, right? So a lot of people, when you're making systems and designing stuff, you're designing like other fantasy or other sci-fi or whatever. Whereas from the ground up, and we're planning more games using the same system. Fingers crossed this does well. And but the plan is to do more stuff, and so the idea is that this is a system that allows fans of IP to come in and enjoy and get the experience of role playing and how fun it is. Because at the end of the day, like, we're just telling a story together, right? There's all this artifice. D&D. At the end of the day, I teach people how to play D&D all the time, and it's like, listen, just tell me what you want to do. Like, great, you're an elf with a bow. Like, I don't know, tell me what you want to do, and you just tell me, and then I'll roll some dice, and you roll some dice, and I'll tell you what happens. But ultimately, we're really just looking for that resolution mechanic, right? And so when we strip that away, we can pull people in that are like put off by like, oh my God, this is like this book, right? You see so many people, especially IP stuff,
rolling tables.
Well, and especially when you get into IP stuff where it's like, oh my God, I love, Labyrinth, right? It's an absolutely gorgeous book. Like, and people that are into role playing are like, wow, this is great. Oh, I can see what's going on. It's easy to pick up. Great. Super cool. And then people that are like not into role playing, but are maybe in the game store, buying board games or doing whatever, are like, oh my God, I love Labyrinth. And they pick it up and they're like, well, I don't know about this though.
Right. Well, and I imagine there are a number of other properties that feel like they would work well with Adventure Time and possibly coexist.
Yeah, so I mean that's obviously stuff that we can't officially say
Of
anything
course, of
about.
course, of course.
But you know,
Yeah, yeah. All right.
something else system-wise that we're doing as part of the product itself is, you know, so this is going to Kickstarter in the fall, like September-ish.
Excellent, excellent.
One of the things we're going to be doing is rules conversion supplements, right? So much of just any RPG is like this world building, but especially with an IP, you know, there's so much narrative, so much world building, so much that encyclopedia, atlas kind of stuff that's going to be created, all these adventures that are going to be written with, you know, the narrative content. And then it's, okay, great, like, so here's how you do stat blocks for 5e. Right. And then and we're partnering, so we're going to be doing a 5e rules supplement.
Nice.
We're partnering with people like Elisa Teague, who, you know, writes a bunch of stuff for D&D, among many other things. You know, and we're going to be doing a 5e rules conversion thing, and then we're going to be doing little zines that are rules conversions with some of our friends like Ninth Level. We're going to be doing a polymorph rules thing. You know, Chris O'Neill's going to be participating in it in an even bigger way. But, you know, we're doing like, here's the polymorph one. You know, we're talking, I don't want to name any other names because they haven't been finalized as for sure, but like, you know, we have other friends that make weird little RPGs, and we're going to be doing this fun little run of, you know what, like, you really love Adventure Time, but like actually your jam is, you know, polymorph.
Yeah.
Well, here's how to do it with polymorph.
Well, and I imagine that, like, the more I think about it, like, even Savage Worlds would work well with it, you know, with the cards and all that.
Yeah,
like,
well, because at the end of the day, right, it is just how do we resolve something when there is a risk of failure and a consequence of failure? What happens when we do that, right?
Right.
Who am I, and then how do we do that is really the heart of all RPGs, right? I'm getting very high concept, but what that means is that if you think about it as these systems, we can easily sort of be like, okay, great, like, well, so, you know, polymorph, you know, Finoy's rolls an 8, right? You know, an 8-sided die, whatever, you know, Marceline's a D4, right? Whatever it is, right? For polymorph stuff. And it's easy enough to sort of like create that framework to pull it in. So, you know, again, this is an effort to make the game accessible and enjoyable for everyone who likes Adventure Time, right? And that could be the like huge, you know, stat nerd. I'm doing math. Like this is where I'm at. Like, you know, I miss Thaco, right?
Well, there's
like, you know, great. I guess we'll figure that out for you too.
Right.
All two of you.
Well, and, I mean, you know, it's always nice to have familiarity. Like some people just will not play anything other than D&D, Fifth Edition, and this way you're able to reach them as well.
Yeah, and then what's nice too is we can kind of reverse the flow a little bit too, because there's a lot of people that learning D&D was a real effort. Right. I mean, I think that's most people at some point. You know, it's just some of us have been learning like a lot of it. I'm an AD&D, so I've learned a lot of
That's only if you actually adhere to the rules. That is more optional than most people think.
but there's a lot of people that, you know, are like, okay, I learned D&D, but like I'm not trying to, you know, I'll pick up Kids on Bikes, I'll pick up some other cool little zine thing, you know, whatever. That's great. But like I'm not trying to learn this Modifius 2D20 system.
Right.
I think it's a great system. It's awesome. You know, as a fan of these things, but there's definitely a lot of people that are into IPs that are like, I mean, I'm not going to play this game. Though.
Right.
You know, I'm going to buy it. This is a beautiful book, super well done. System makes sense, but like, I'm not going to convince my friends that only play D&D to learn a whole nother book, right? And so with this, we're trying to make that initial barrier to entry super low, super smooth, and then you can crunch it up in the direction that you like.
Right. And then, of course, something just popped in my brain, like Morkborg Adventure Time mashup would be something amazing that will probably never, ever, ever happen.
I mean, it will officially. I'm pretty sure it will officially not happen.
Yes.
That said, I mean, I'm not trying to
too far there.
I'm not trying to narc anybody out for 50 zines in the back of a van at Gen Con or whatever. You know, like that's.
No, it's Adventure Time adjacent. There you go.
Exactly.
We had one question from one of the members of our staff who's here with us at Origins. It's dipping back into the lore. What era of the show are you looking at?
Yeah. So all of them really is kind of the answer. You know, so there's just so many cool stories to tell in that world, and there's so many times that are interesting, that you can tell stories in. And so the stuff's going to be there. If it's in the show, you'll be able to, play that scene. There will be the tools. We're not necessarily going to write every scene from every episode, but hopefully the plan is like every episode, the tools will be there for you to be able to play that episode, right? Whether that's a flashback, a flash forward, some of the distant land stuff, right? Your BMO, in the future, right? You can do that stuff. And with the pre-written adventures, we're also going to be jumping around, right? So there's going to be more in, I guess, what we would call the prime show timeline, right? Finn from 12 to 16 or whatever, right?
Nice.
That'll be like the prime stuff, but there'll absolutely be flashback stuff. There's going to be,
so much
little kid
opportunity for like
right?
adventures and modules.
Yeah. We'll have like little kid Marceline stuff, and there will be some of that. There will be future. I don't know if somebody might write something for actually during the Mushroom War, right? And we'll see.
Yeah, awesome. Is Pendleton Ward himself getting involved? Have you met him?
So that's a thing that I think I cannot answer.
Okay.
Because now we're getting into like Hollywood stuff.
Right.
The answer is that I have not. I will say that I have not personally met him yet. But I will say that what I will say is, as a creative and as a studio, and we are sort of there's approvals and stuff, but ultimately a lot of it is kind of like we're driving the ship. I would never want to make something in someone else's sandbox that the person was like bummed about.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever that mechanism exactly is, maximum effort in making something that Pendleton and like Adam Muto and some of the other everybody that's working on the show, right? Really everybody.
Right.
But that they're like, oh, this is a really awesome representation of the thing that we made and love, right?
Well, and you can see some like old school RPG in the DNA of the show, right? So I can't imagine that he wouldn't want to like at least check things out. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's clearly like just like a really bonkers D&D campaign.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Turned into a show,
exactly.
right?
All right. So this is coming to Kickstarter when?
This is coming to Kickstarter probably September.
Okay.
The pre-launch page just went up along with the press release.
Awesome.
So it's on Kickstarter, and if you search for Adventure Time, the role-playing game, it'll turn up.
What are we looking at here? Like you mentioned 5e kind of conversion stuff. We're looking at like a source book.
Yeah, so we are
Game
finalizing.
Master
So I'm going to say.
I know dice.
So I'm going to say we're finalizing the exact product, but it's going to be a more accessible size of book.
Okay.
We're actually leaning towards there's going to be probably a box set.
Excellent. That's what I like. The box sets were formative.
Yeah.
Like,
I love
like that was a huge part of what got me into D&D at a young age.
I had the.
It seems like that would.
The Earl Otis blue box with the dragon.
That's the expert set. The there was the basic set.
Yep.
Expert. Yeah, I had both.
That was my first one. So we're thinking box set for the base, and that'll be more of what goes to retail. Of course, it's a Kickstarter, so we're going to do some bonkers stuff.
Of course.
There will absolutely be like a deluxe, fancy deluxe book with extra stuff all worked into it. Ultimately, that's the idea is not to have exclusive content in there, but to collate some of the other content into a single volume and make it that one thing. What's that? Yeah, so that's something that is, so as a game, so as a system, to go way backwards, as a system, it's not one that is particularly like miniature focused.
So
right?
it's more theater of the mind.
A lot more theater of the mind.
Okay.
That said, like everybody loves minis.
Yeah.
Like I literally, in my D&D games, I almost exclusively do theater of the mind. I'll build these big set pieces, when it's something huge, but mostly theater of the mind. But I can't stop buying minis. Like I have a bunch of Dwarven Forge that I never use, but man, it looks cool.
Yeah, especially when you actually have time to paint them too.
Yeah.
Right?
If you haven't had a chance to go check out this setup for mazes at the 9th level booth, they have this great big Dwarven Forge board.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I own an obscene amount of Dwarven Forge.
Nice.
I could probably make a fort with all of the boxes of Dwarven Forge
Nice.
that I have, which oddly is on topic, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's the thing is, again, the system is, you can always go up, right? With the system, it's difficult to go down, but you can go up. So if you're like, I want to actually bolt on like 5e tactical miniatures combat in my, Adventure Time dungeon crawl, like, you go for it. Like, that's
Awesome.
awesome.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks for telling us all about it. Go to the, we'll put the page to the Kickstarter reminder link.
Yeah.
And so that you can find out when it launches, the day it launches, and get your pledge in right away. And hopefully we'll be talking to Matt again in the coming months to get more details as he's allowed to talk about them.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
So yeah, stay tuned to Gaming Trend for more Adventure Time RPG goodness, and check us out for all of our Origins news this week.